A very good afternoon to all of you. I'm Shreya Jha, your host for today's webinar. I welcome you all to this session scheduled today. I welcome our guest speaker, Advocate Rahul Tiwari, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation and joining us today for enlightening the budding lawyers and young minds connected with us here. Sir has completed his legal education from New Law College, Bharati Vidyapeeth, Pune. He has also obtained his LLM with 8.35 CGPA, distinction holder, specializing in cybercrime and economic offense. He has a strong passion for legal research and public speaking. He is a founding member and managing partner of LNS Associate, which is a MCA registered law firm. This firm offers online legal education and training to law students and fresh graduates. He is also a panel member of World Cybersecurity Forum. He has presented 25 research papers in various international and national seminars in Denmark, NLSIU Bangalore, BHU, CNLU Patna, IIT Hyderabad, NLU Orissa, IIIT Allahabad, Delhi University, and has 7 unpaid publications in prestigious journals, including the UGC approved one. Apart from the legal practice and research, he loves teaching students. He has been invited as guest speaker on 20 plus webinars where he taught law students about basic of criminal and constitutional law. His list of achievement is certainly very long and shows that he does not need any introduction. Once again, I welcome you, sir. I request all our participants to keep their video and mic off throughout the webinar. You can put your question and queries in the chat box, which will be answered at the end of this session by our guest speaker. Or you may raise your hand in the question and answer session. We'll unmute you thereafter and you may ask up your queries directly from sir. Without wasting much time, let's start the webinar now. Over to you, sir.
Okay, then hello everyone. This is Advocate Rahul Tiwari, and today's sorry, I'm not well today, so I will just request that please be patient and listen to me because I'm suffering from severe cold from last 3 days, and I didn't wanted to delay this webinar. So the point is, see what is Shreya, okay. So the thing is, today's webinar is on a very important topic. And if you just see the if you just see the headline, it says that is India ready for the marriage for the LGBTQ community? Then I would have just one word answer, which is no. See, there are always two things in the life. Okay, always remember this thing. Okay, because see, regarding the legal part, regarding the legal part, regarding the social aspect part, you can read everything on net. Okay, but you attend the webinar or you join someone's sessions because you actually want to hear. Just a minute, yeah. You actually want to hear something good or something something beneficial from your senior. Okay, and that's the reason I'm happy that okay we have less number of participants, and whosoever is attending today's webinar, I can share that all those are very serious students and they will take away a lot of things from this webinar. The point of attending these webinars is that you first of all understand something different, and you try to you try to collect some information, and you get some other kind of information which is very different in nature, which you have not you know which you have not heard before. So regarding the LGBT community, if we just talk about the marriage part, then I would say that as of now, India is not ready for it. And always remember, my dear students, that there are two things in the life. First, what you want, and always apply both these things in your life in every aspect. First, what is right, and second, what actually you want. For example, recently in January, Bar Council of India went to Supreme Court to become a party. If we say that they wanted to implead themselves in the case under order 1 rule 10 ek das, if you have interned under a civil lawyer, you will understand these provisions regarding that 3 years experience should be made mandatory before students become eligible before students become eligible to write judicial service examination. So I'll complete my 2 years of litigation this year. So if you ask me what is right, actually I've done this one webinar with the amicus query also. If you can watch it on the YouTube, I've explained the technicalities that if you ask me what is right, I would say yes, 3 years of experience should be mandatory before someone becomes eligible to write judicial service examination. But if someone asks me, what do you want actually, then I would say no, it should not be there because all the students should be made eligible to write the exam irrespective of their experience. So there is always a clash between what is right and what do you want, because you have just started attending this webinar. So I just thought that apart from going into the theoretical part, first at the first instance itself, I should give you something very interesting which you can remember for a whole of your life. Okay, so always remember this thing, that there will always be a clash between what do you want and uh, sorry, what do you want and what is actually right. And same is the case with the LGBTQ community. If you ask me what is right, not the fundamental rights part, sahi hai galat wala, right, and not the direction on also. I would say you will say yes, the right thing to do is that their right should be preserved. They should be given a lot of rights, and they should be provided with all the fundamental rights and facilities which the other people in the just like any other person, just like we enjoy our fundamental rights. The thing is, and if someone asks you, will you go and cooperate with them? No, I'm not saying that if someone asks me, will you go and marry them? No, I would say if someone asks you that, will you go and cooperate with them? Will you go and help them in getting to ensure that those people get a decent accommodation on rent? You will be perplexed, and you will be taken aback, and you will say, I'm not sure. And that's the problem. And that's the problem which this community faces from last, they are actually facing from last 2000 years. Before starting this webinar, always remember, as I had a very colorful past regarding my attitude. After passing out of my 12, I straight away got into Delhi University. I was a BA history student and after 2 months, my IP result came out, so I left Delhi University. I joined 5 years law, and then I got suspended from the IP University. Then I went to Pune to complete my legal education, and there also I did a lot of other things. But the concept of history always remained with me. And when I started reading history, I came to know that our ancient part, not the current political party or any other political party propagate that, in past we were like this, we were like that. No, we will just, because I'm a lawyer, you guys are law student, we will simply go by the evidences and the facts. So we have to divide the history into three parts: ancient history, medieval history, and modern history. Modern history from the 17th century to this day, medieval history from the, I guess, 5th century AD to 17th century, and ancient history before that. And even in the prehistory or prehistoric era, which we say in India, the Vedic period. Okay, before the time of Gautam Buddha, if we read about those, about the life before Gautam Buddha appeared, the life, because Gautam Buddha was a reformer. Because when he witnessed that the society is not going in the same manner which existed earlier, that is why he left everything and he started reforming every people, right? So in the prehistoric area, the LGBTQ community was given a lot of respect. They were the people who were always uh, made the inclusive part of the society. There was no discrimination. And in the book written by Vatsayana, a book authored by Vatsayana called Kama Sutra, there is one whole chapter on homosexuality. Okay, so if we can perceive that regarding the LGBTQ community, then our prehistoric era, I can say that our prehistoric era was way more advanced than us. And is it a national phenomena or a universal phenomena? Then let me give you some brief example. If you read about the Egyptian art uh, and Egyptian art regarding the Imhotep and few paintings, then and the paintings of Imhotep and the Egyptian art, which is around 2400 years, which was around the period of 2400 BC, which is I can say 4500 years ago. You will find the concept of homosexuality existed over there. And it was actually glorified also, and they were also made a respectable part of the society. Same with the Americans. When the Spaniards discovered the land of America, especially and the local community, which we say the Red Indian, okay, the Red Indian, and it comprises of two, three important tribals community, namely Mayas people, Aztec people, and they also actually accepted homosexuality as a inclusive part of the society, and later on they were butchered by the Spaniards for this kind of practice. When this happened in the medieval period, and always remember, when if you are preparing for UPSC and if you are planning to take history as an option, then always remember one thing. Then obviously this will actually help you out in figuring a lot of things, that the period of medieval history is always considered as a dark age, where the superstition, where the religion had overpowered what you call it, the logic. And that is why in the Europe, we saw the first instance of Renaissance, and because they came out from the Dark Age first, and that is the biggest reason why the Europeans from the medieval period, from the ending of the medieval period, they actually ruled all over the world. Because just after the Renaissance period, they actually started the Industrial Revolution and they ruled all over the. And the famous what do you call it? The reformers were Galileo, Nicholas Copernicus, who said that the Earth is in center and Earth is not in the center and Sun is in center and it revolves around the sun. Although he was murdered. And then if you go to the prehistoric China, also 600 BC, in the Liu Song dynasty, and also in the Liu Song, not in the Liu Song dynasty specifically, but there are a lot of paintings and scriptures available that the homosexuality existed from that period. So we cannot say that it is a modern phenomenon, or it is kind of a fashion that people are actually witnessing homosexuality. Okay. Similarly, I've told you about the Indian also. And if you read the European history, then also you will find in that in the ancient Greek civilization and in the ancient Roman civilization, the homosexuality was accepted in the society. And homosexuality. So now the purpose of explaining you from the history was that I wanted to explain you that the homosexual existed in the society from the time immemorial. It is not something that it has actually developed in the recent last 20, 30 years. That's not the case. And same is the case with the LGBTQ the transgender. If you read the research paper of Penrose Walter in the which is written in history, and it was published in 2001. It said he also mentioned about the third sex that it also exists. So we have to first of all accept that the homosexual existed in our society from the time immemorial, and it is not something which has developed very recently. No, now going forward. So, what is the current scenario that they are actually stigmatized? Nobody wants to actually talk about them. They always, especially the transgender people, they always people, and they mean they're only active and they are either prostitution or begging. So these are the two options as a source of livelihood available to the transgender people, and it is something, and they are suffering for no control. It was due to their birth. It existed with them from their birth, and they had no control over that thing. Okay. And also, if you see the recent phenomena, first of all, I would like to mention two judgments. Whenever there is a talk about the LGBTQ community, they always talk about the Navtej Johar versus Navtej Johar's judgment by the Supreme Court. But before that, we have to also understand the judgment of Puttaswamy, P.S. Puttaswamy versus Union of India. And in that, it was clearly held that the sexual orientation is also an essential component of the right, fundamental rights, which is preserved in the Constitution of India. Okay, so we have to understand that LGBTQ community existed in the society from the time immemorial. Their sexual orientation is something which is their essential part, and they also hold the right to privacy. Okay, but what is the current stand of the government? Here, I will not blame the current government, but also the opposition also. Is that in India in the year 2019, India simply refused to sign, or I would say that they abstained from the voting for the rights of the LGBTQ community. Okay, and in that it was clear, it was also said that the 8% of the population. So you can you feel please feel free to do the math that how many crores people are there. 8%, and obviously the thing is that we don't have any official data, but the source varies from 8% to 11% of especially the Indian societies are they belong to the LGBTQ community. So we cannot we cannot surpass their rights and neglect 11% of the population. And if you see on the religious basis, if LGBTQ community is made a religion, that will be the third biggest religion in India. Okay, so now moving forward very quickly. Sorry, social aspect is that first of all they are stigmatized. We don't want to talk about them. They are always outcast. Not only they transgender, they are discriminated. They faces violence and violence, all form of violence, where the sexual violence, physical violence, emotional violence from the from their own family member. Okay, so this is the sorry, this is the social aspect, and this is something faced by the entire LGBTQ community. And now, if you see the legal aspect, I have explained you regarding the employment part. I've explained the transgender people. They have only have two options. Okay, either they are left with the two options because they are outcast from the society, and it is either prostitution or the begging. Regarding the homosexuals, they have to hide their sexuality in the public public forum so that they don't face discrimination. And few of the biggest example of violence which is faced by the homosexual people who are very renowned are I'm not going to if you read about the at the Google, you will find that there was a judge who also faced discrimination because of his sexuality, and his promotion was hampered. Similarly, the death of a Aligarh Muslim University professor. Similarly, please read about the case of Alan Turing, on which Hollywood movie was also made, and he was also called as the founding father of artificial intelligence, and he faced violence, and ultimately his demise. It was all because of his sexuality. So now, And regarding the political party part, as I said, not only the current party in the power, but also the opposition do not support on it. And main reason is the on the ground of religion. Okay, and if you see after the judgment, it was opposed by the All India Muslim Personal Law Board also and Jamaat Islam, and also the right wing right wing parties. So first, we have to accept that, especially just coming into the conclusion that whether India is ready or not. First, we have to understand the history, and that was the reason that first I explained you the concept of homo LGBTQ community from the history part, historical part, and then their social part, legal part, and then now moving forward. And if we read that actually this concept, if we can say that this is something that now it is high time that we have to take cognizance and we have to educate ourselves. But regarding this part, I'll explain at the end. Regarding the reasons for the homosexuality or the sexual orientation, and also the transgender, you know, that it is always related to birth. They have no other control, but there also exists a community which is called the trans men and the trans women, which means that they were actually men by the birth, but they developed the sexual orientation towards the same sex, and ultimately they undergo some kind of biological changes also. Please, it will be my request that please read about this. But here I would like to quote regarding the homosexual part. I would like to quote, although we don't have any concrete evidence regarding gay where the kind of homosexuality, but a kind of or it is whether it's a it depends that if a person faces sexual violence in the past or in the early childhood, they develop sexual orientation towards the same sex. It is absolutely, it is natural in nature. And here I would like to quote three research papers of the Oxford University written by the Jacques Baltet in time 2000. And also there are research which has taken place which says that the sexual orientation it has got nothing with the past experiences, but it is extremely natural in nature, and it is by the birth. Like, you know, if that a person shows that signs from the early stage. And also there was a very important research paper written by J.M. Bailey in the journal called Psychological Science in Public Interest in the year 2016. Please research paper and read about it. So again, I've explained.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, sorry to interrupt you. Sir, our participants are unable to listen to your points. Actually, you are having some network issues. I mean, you're not, we are not able to
Okay.
hear you properly.
Am I audible now?
So you are audible, but there's a lot of glitch in your voice. It's not coming properly. Sir,
It's not very good. I'm told you I'm actually not well and something that. But it's okay that. It, am I audible now?
yes, sir, you are audible now.
So, uh, regarding, I've explained you about the historical part, the social life, and the economical life. And now coming to the basic main theme of the webinar, which actually talks about that is India ready for the LGBTQ marriage? Then I would again say the same answer, which I said at the start, that at present they are not ready. We as a society are not ready to accept their marriage. Although the right thing to do is that it should be uh, need to make a special laws for them, because just giving them a right to marry will not solve their problem, because it is not that not all people which belongs to the LGBTQ community wants to marry, because marriage thing. If we read the history regarding the Hindu Marriage Act also, which was enacted in the year 1955, there was a lot of chaos which took place even at that time, because they said that no Hindu laws should not be codified and the Hindu Marriage Act should not be this, and there exists no concept of divorce. Okay, so not only it will solve problem, because see, the correct solution is that we need a specific legislation for the marriage of LGBT community. But if by till that period, what all the alternatives which we can look into, and that are like, if you read the family law, what are the basic components of family law? There are five basic components: marriage, divorce, maintenance, adoption, and guardianship. And for that, if you read all the personal laws, we have we have written legislation for for all of them. And as of now, what is the available source of what I can say that where through which the people live together is the LGBTQ community live together is the live-in relationship. So as of now, not only the specific statues for the specific statue for the LGBTQ community regarding the marriage is needed. Just like the Hindu Code Bill was introduced in 1955 and it was finally passed, but we also need to make a lot of other changes in various other laws. For example, the biggest example is the surrogacy law. Surrogacy law, if we read about the surrogacy law, recently they have introduced specific amendments regarding the introduction of the LGBTQ community, and also uh, also provisions to avail the surrogacy facilities, especially for the trans people. But it is yet, not yet met, and that surrogacy bill, which was actually drafted in 2016, it was passed by Lok Sabha in 2019, and then it was sent to Rajya Sabha, and then it was sent back for the specific amendment. It is high time that by taking the example of Putta Swami judgment, they need to actually amend this surrogacy bill also, and they have to give specific provisions for LGBT community to avail their service, and for which they can take an example from the other countries also, like in Israel, like in Portugal. They Even the LGBTQ community are allowed they are also allowed to avail the service facilities. Okay, and second thing, we have to legalize the live-in relationship, because by legacy, as of now, live-in relationship are as such that if you read the values for me judgment, okay, or if you read the Koshtu judgment in the year 2020, 2010, it was held that it was protected by the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that the live-in relationship is not illegal in nature. Okay, but as of now, if we look into the statutes, we don't have any specific written law for the live-in relationship. So apart from, like, like I said in the past, that the marriage always comes at the last. Before reaching to that place, we have to undergo a lot of amendments, and these are the amendments that the government should look into it. That first of all, as I said, regarding the amendments in the surrogacy part, regarding the uh, legalizing the regarding the drafting of living relationship, and third, regarding the adoption part, because as of now, if we see the adoption part, a single parent cannot adopt. Okay, and they have specific provisions that a single woman can adopt, but a single man cannot. It is subject to the conditions, and the adoption laws also. and they need specific amendments to include this community. Okay, because just by making legislation regarding the marriage part will not solve their problem. So apart from the marriage law, surrogacy, adoption, legal relationship, and uh, also, recently we see the transgender bill because these provisions will mostly benefit the homosexual community. But regarding the transgender bill, it is also extremely important that it was recently passed by the parliament, and it has a lot of uh, what should I say? That it has a lot of lacunas in that, and some of them are that if the transgender people are attacked, then they are given the maximum punishment of 2 years. So if they are given the maximum punishment of 2 years, it simply goes to the magistrate court, and mostly such kind of offences become bailable in nature, and usually the bail is easily granted either by the police station or by the court. And second thing, that bill says that the transgender who is a transgender person, they have to specifically go to the police station, to the district authority. They have to register themselves transgender. So ultimately, again, the provisions of Justice Swami judgments gets violated because it does not give them right to determine their own sex. Okay, and thirdly, no action is taken against the family member who outcasts them or who emotionally who do violence with them or who actually throws them out because of their sexuality, especially in the transgender. And instead of that, instead of taking action against the family member, the rehabilitation is provided to the transgender community. So these are few things apart from as I've discussed regarding the homosexual. These are the few things which the government also needs to look into it regarding the transgender right. And lastly, as I have said regarding all these parts, see, as Mahatma Gandhi said, that be the change you want to see. So ultimately, if we really want to see the marriage in the LGBT community coming into light, and what I would say that if you really want to be ensure that it becomes a reality, then first of all we have to educate ourselves that that homosexuality is not a disease. Being born as a transgender was not in their hand. It was out of their control. Just like you and us, I cannot decide that whether I'll born as a boy or a male. It is biological. Okay, so and the thing is that ultimately, when we educate ourselves, the stigmas goes away, and then there will be no need for the rehabilitations of the transgender people in the same society, or the inclusive, including or providing the inclusive environment to the homosexual, because they will ultimately become the part of the society. Okay, until then, if they not given this kind, if we don't educate ourselves, then obviously the problems will continue to exist there, and again they will be left with no other option for the source of livelihood apart from prostitution and begging. So this was my basic gist of the webinar, and now, and always remember that if a person, whether he belongs from an LGBT community or from any other person, the thing is, Article 21 is always reserved to them. So every person, they always have the Article 21 with them. And on one more thing, you'll find a lot of speeches or a lot of talk that homosexuality is nothing but a disease or a fantasy which someone wants to fantasize. It is nothing like that, because homosexuality is something which are found not only in the humans but also in the other animals also, like in these few breeds of the duck or in the penguins. The homosexualities are also found in them also. Okay, so it is not something which is only being in the practice or being in, existence in the human being also, but it is also there in the animal kingdom also. Okay, so this was my just of this was my basic understanding of this topic. Okay, because as of now, I would say it again that is India ready? As of now, we are not ready unless and until we educate ourselves, we remove that particular stigma, and the government cannot work on the live-in relationship, surrogacy, and adoption. Okay, ultimately, even if they make legislation regarding that, it won't be fruitful, and it will just remain a legislation like what I can say, that the Dowry Prohibition Act, which was passed way back, in 1961, 50 years ago, sorry, 60 years ago. And even if you see the number of dowry deaths which takes place, it is close to 9,000 in 1 year. Okay, so that is my basic take. That will be your biggest takeaway is that we have to educate ourselves. And I have given you a lot of examples of research from the research paper, and a lot of example of a lot of example of people who faced violence, and the from the uh, reference from the prehistoric era also. Okay, so please, from today onwards, I would request that please utilize this time of Sunday and read a lot about it. Okay, and then ultimately you will understand. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really an informative
And
and
welcome,
knowledgeable
Krishna.
session with you today. I thank our participants as well for being a patient listener. We appreciate your time and patience and will make sure that we keep serving you all with such webinars in future as well. Thank you all. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your time.